Welcome to Branching Out, Growing Together, the podcast that brings you inspiring stories from people ready to take bold steps, grow new opportunities, and transform their land or careers into something extraordinary. Hosted by Melanie Jones, each episode features farmers, entrepreneurs, and visionaries sharing their journeys of discovery and growth. Whether you're dreaming of starting your own farm or looking for new ways to cultivate success, you're in the right place. It's time to branch out and grow together.
Hi friends, Melanie here, and I'm so glad you're tuning in to another episode of Branching Out, Growing Together. Today's guest is Nora D'Antuono from the Ecdysis Foundation, an incredible nonprofit leading one of the most ambitious agricultural research projects in the country. The 1,000 Farms Initiative. You'll hear Nora and I talk about what brought her, Iohei, a Rhode Island native, all the way to South Dakota to join a mission rooted in science, soil, and sustainability. And yes, she and her teammates recently came out to EBB Farms, bringing their microscopes, bug boxes, bird monitors, and clipboards, all part of this groundbreaking research into regenerative farming practices across the U.S. We'll dig into everything from why soil matters, to what farmers can learn from bugs and birds, to the role chestnuts might play in a more resilient future. You'll also hear how the team at Ecdysis is using AI, on-farm data, and community to shift the narrative around what's possible in agriculture, and how you can be part of that change. This episode is full of insight, heart, and hope. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Nora D'Antuono.
Well, hello, Nora, and thank you so much for joining the Branching Out, Growing Together podcast. The last time that I saw you, you were in one of our chestnut orchards with 8 of your colleagues, and I'm so excited to share the story of why you were here and what you were doing. And I thought a good place to start is, why did you get involved with the foundation, and how do you pronounce your last name?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Melanie. I'm really happy to be on Branching Out, Growing Together, and was happy to meet you and Brad at EBB Farms. My name is Nora D'Antuono, and I work for the Ecdysis Foundation. We are a nonprofit agricultural research organization conducting a research initiative called the 1,000 Farms Initiative, and that's why we are out visiting you all in Kentucky. Um, I started working here a little over a year ago. We kind of joke that this job finds you because we work out of a pole shed in South Dakota in the middle of nowhere, and we have people from all over the country and all over the world who work for us. And it's a really special community to be a part of. We get to see some pretty cool things, and we all get to know each other really well. And I always say that because I just kind of took this job as a shot in the dark. I'm from Rhode Island. I found the job listing on this niche job board, and I thought, I'll just give it a shot and see why not. And everyone thought I was crazy moving to South Dakota. But I'm really glad that I did. And it's been so great. I've learned so much and really love the community that I'm a part of here now. Um, so yeah, it's been great, and I'm excited to help continue the research that we're working on, and spread the word.
Yeah, fantastic. And yes, you are part of a community and a tight-knit group, because there were 9 of you in 2 vans traveling all around the Midwest here. So it was spectacular. So when you were a little girl, did you enjoy kind of tinkering in the dirt, or are you involved in this mission more because of what you see, that what's happening on our planet?
I think it's a bit of both. My parents both love to garden, and I grew up helping them and getting my hands dirty. And since I was a kid, I've always loved being outside,
Yeah.
and I've loved food and cooking. And especially for my family, that's a way for all of us to come together, is through food. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. I didn't really think of that as a career opportunity or something that I could turn into a job and something that I could get involved with beyond that. I went to college I got my degree in environmental economics. So I was interested in trying to address climate change issues and how we could help improve the state of our environment. But I wanted to be more involved with also helping people as well. And I found that agriculture is the intersection of that. And that's how I really got started getting involved into agriculture. I took an internship in Washington State after I graduated and loved it. And it just combined all of the things I'm passionate about. And I knew that that's where I was supposed to be. And that's what I've kind of continued working on. And I think that the more experience I got in it, the more also I realized how much needed to be addressed and how much reform needs to happen. And I feel strongly that what we're doing at Ecdysis and what I should be doing is working to make those changes.
Yeah. And on your journey visiting with farmers and farms, are you finding some encouragement of the future for the future?
Totally. I think we see such a wide range of growing systems and management practices. And I think you go to one farm and it's easy to feel discouraged, or maybe there's something that comes out in the news and you think, oh my gosh, like we have so far to go and this mountain seems insurmountable. And then you go and you visit another farm, or we all talk together and about what we can do individually, and then the mountain gets a little bit smaller. And
Yeah.
I think sharing stories with farmers and seeing what they're doing and knowing that what they're doing matters is one of the biggest parts of our job, because I think it's really hard to keep going sometimes. Um, and just knowing that there's someone there who sees you and knows that what you're doing is great work. I think that's, motivation for everybody to keep going, and is motivation for us that what we're doing is meaningful as well.
Yeah, for sure. So if you were to like describe to someone that didn't know what the 1000 Farm project is about, like what you did when you came to EBB Farms, kind of describe what you're doing and then why.
Yeah. So the 1000 Farms Initiative is one of the most ambitious agroecological experiments ever conducted. I think that a lot of people hear about regenerative and sustainable ag, and they think about these practices, but more so anecdotally. And it's a discussion that's happening and it's very buzzy, but there's not a lot of data or science to back it up. And I think people who are skeptical of that like to say, well, it's great that it worked there, but it won't work on my farm. And our research is really trying to change that narrative and to use data to prove that this can happen everywhere and it should happen everywhere, and it's possible. And we don't want it to be something that's so easily dismissed. And I think we need to have science there as the backbone to help that discourse be changed. So the research that we're doing to, I guess, to help change that is that we're sampling now over 1,000 farms across the country, across a variety of growing systems and management practices. And we are measuring how farmers manage life on their operations. So we're looking at soil health and measuring invertebrate communities and plant species richness, bird abundance. We're looking at water infiltration. We also take yield samples for nutrient density analysis, and we conduct surveys with growers about their management practices, their economics, their yields, and all of that gets wrapped together into a grower report that gets delivered to each farmer, um, and helps them have some more insight about what's going on in their farm, and helps us build a nationwide database about what our food system looks like and how we can best guide it moving forward. And I think a big part of that that's special about what we're doing is that we're focusing on farmers and we're listening to what they have to say and their stories and their challenges and motivations, and using that to contextualize everything else that's going on in their farms. A lot of research being done right now doesn't focus on the farmer, feels a bit disconnected to the farmer and what's happening on the ground. And we're trying to change that because those are the people who are pioneering the way forward. And we're just trying to be a voice for them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're supported by grants, but also donations. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're funded privately.
Hmm.
We're an independent organization, so we are not swayed by any external motivation. We don't have anyone telling us the research that we need to publish or a certain result that we're striving to get. We are unbiased and we want it to remain that way because, like we said, we are in service to the farmers. We want their voices to be heard, and we're letting the data speak for itself.
Yeah, I really like that when you told me like we're gonna come out all nine of us and a lot of doctorates, and so forth on your team, but that we're not here as providing a consultation. We're here just gathering data and sharing ideas with us, which was fantastic, and listening to us, and I think that's great. Another thing I read was that you're working with this intent to create a community that farmers are like in touch with each other, even if it's just through the research. That's pretty neat, and I think it's needed if people are especially changing how farming's happening. Like we're here in the middle of Kentucky, and there's a lot of farms that are just doing things they've done it for hundreds of years probably, and not really thinking there's another way to make the soil better and the planet better and all that. So you have your mission cut out, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
For
yeah, we
sure.
definitely do. Um,
Yeah.
I think, we talk so much about community here and building relationships because that is a focal point of our organization and our mission. And it's also something that we've built just as an organization. You're with
Hmm.
8 other people for a week straight, sharing beds and meals and vans, and you get close really quickly. But I think that it goes beyond that, and all of us have these interactions with farmers across the country. And when you meet somebody face to face and you have a conversation with them, you don't forget that. And that means way more to us than, numbers and papers. I find that personally way more meaningful. And I think what has motivated me to continue the work that we're doing is because we are trying to foster community in whatever respect that's possible, because I think it's really hard to change alone. And I don't think
Yes.
that this is ever going to work if we're trying to do it on our own.
That's right. That's right. Creating community, and here with United Chestnuts, which is the kind of the brand that's driving EBB Farms and now other farms in the near future with chestnut farming, is this sense of community because it's a product that's coming to the forefront of the United States, and community is what's going to help make that happen. So let's
Really.
let's let's switch subjects a little bit. So when all nine of you were out with the chestnut trees, and I said, "Hey, who here has eaten a chestnut?" And none of you had, except for one person on the team from Nepal, but he didn't know the word chestnut, but he looked it up on his phone. I'm like, oh, we eat those all the time.
Yeah.
So it's the chestnuts are a product that's perennial, low input, can help the soils, can help with just about everything. So what little things did you learn about chestnut trees and orchards and just the mission that some of us in the US are on?
Well, EBB Farms was the first chestnut orchard we've ever visited or sampled. So that was really cool to be out there and see that for the first time. And then I feel like I've learned so much talking with growers like you and Brad, but also other people who, they're just starting out and they're excited about chestnuts. And I think that after learning so much, I didn't realize how much potential was there, but it seems really exciting. And um, I think that everything, that it's low input and it's perennial and it's high yields, all of that is like perfectly sums up regenerative aspirations, I guess.
Yes.
That we can that we can be growing something that's nutrient dense and growing a lot of food for local communities, and requires little disturbance of the soil and can restore ecosystems. I mean, yeah, it sounds like, why would we not grow chestnuts?
Yeah, exactly. And I read something the other day that in theory, the chestnut could replace corn as a food product, and how much better that would be for the climate and the soils and the little systems underneath. Just tell me one more time about like what's happening in the soil right underneath those trees or any farm. Why is it so important that we think about the soil?
The soil is the foundation of everything that's happening above ground. It's the foundation of the health of the land, the ecosystem, the farm. If you have healthy soil, you have healthy plants. If you have healthy plants, you have healthy crops. If you have healthy crops, you have healthy people and healthy communities. I think all of it is so interconnected. And to me now, doing this work, it seems very obvious, but I think there's a lot of people who are disconnected from that. Um, and I hope that we can try to bring that awareness around for more people to understand. But um, it all starts in the soil.
Yeah.
And that is why a lot of the sampling that we do involves the soil, because it's kind of the building blocks of where your farm can grow from there.
Yeah. That's good. I like the book Dirt to Soil that just talked a lot about that subject of for someone maybe like me that hasn't been a farmer, I'm becoming a farmer, but to be aware of all the different elements. The other thing is I'm listening to the book Carbon, and just really not being aware of all these things. I think awareness is such a big thing. It's a topic that's easy to kind of shove aside for later or other people, but the whole package of regenerative and helping our climate is so important. So I'm really enjoying learning, and it was just phenomenal to see all the different things that your team was measuring and learning why. So for listeners, we took a lot of little video clips when the team was here, and we'll insert that into the YouTube version of the podcast. Um, okay, so let's do this. I'm going to read this. One of the really fascinating things for me was the bug box program, because as I told y'all, I'm so far not a real big bug lover, but you've collected over 500,000 specimens of insects. So how does that program work, and what kind of insights are you trying to pull from it, and how will it help us in the future?
Yeah. It's funny you say you're not a bug lover, because there's actually quite a few people who come to this job and then they have to photograph spiders and other bugs, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm scared of spiders," or "I don't like spiders." And then, after you photograph 200 spiders, you think they're kind of cute.
I might get there, I might get there. That's
um,
awesome.
but BugBox kind of developed after we started 1000 Farms, because we realized that this was a necessary element to what we're doing. Our founder is an entomologist. That's how he started his career. And there's a lot kind of similar to soil health. There's a lot that insects can tell you about the health of the land. Um, and what BugBox is an AI software that we're developing to train, well, we're training the AI through the samples that we're taking. So every insect that we collect on every farm gets photographed, and then we upload it into BugBox, and then BugBox then gets trained off of those insects to identify which species they are.
Wow.
And we're doing that so that eventually BugBox can identify any insect species from a photo, and that software can be implemented towards farmers, and that farmers can use it themselves on their own farms. And understanding the biodiversity of insects on your farms, understanding, oh, I have this insect on my farm, and this is really beneficial for this pest, or I see that I have a high population of this specific insect. Like, in what ways can we try to address that situation? Insects are kind of like one step up from soil health, and in terms of building a healthy ecosystem that your farm can thrive off of.
Yeah.
Or alongside of. So the end goal of BugBox is for it to be a farmer used software. And I think along with everything else that we are sampling and discovering through our samples is that having diversity of all forms of life is really the key to having a healthy farm.
Yeah. And same with birds. I mean, I was with your colleague that was tracking and listening and looking for birds. And I guess we're in a good spot because we have lots of different types of birds. But, if you get closer to a city, you might not have that, and why. And I guess so, like, do you have people in the team that are also analyzing the data that you're collecting, like compiling and using AI or something to look at the cross section from these different farms?
Yes, yeah. So we have, there's quite a few teams, I guess you could say, or people with certain specialties, and yeah, there's a lot going on. But
Yeah.
um, so BugBox is really being developed specifically by one of our entomologists and a few other entomologists who work here, alongside people who are specialize in coding and AI development. And that team is kind of working together to develop that. And then we also have a different software that's very similar to BugBox, but it's for bird abundance. So we're using ecoacoustics that we measure at every farm, along with the identification that we get from our ornithologists to develop. It's called Xerinx, which is like a bird species identification software.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
then we also have quite a few PhD and master students who work with us to develop several different research papers that come from the absurd amount of data that we have. Um, we have, we have, this is such a large scale project or initiative that we have so much data to work through and to filter out depending on what it is that we're looking at and what it is we want to research. So there's people specifically who their job is to filter through the data that we have and find how it can be relevant for a specific hypothesis.
Yeah. Yeah.
So an example of that would be, recently we've been working on a paper that's talking about transitioning croplands to rangelands and how that would affect soil health and um, just general ecosystem health.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot to there's a lot to learn, and I think that we end up with more questions than answers half the time because the data presents new questions itself, and that's a continual work in progress of um, yeah, figuring out what exactly it is we can share with people, and how to best present this data in palatable forms that can be translated to scientific communities and farming communities alike.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. That's what science is. You think you know something, and then you get enough information and say, well, actually now there's five other tangents that we have to kind of research, but that's the fun of it. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'd love to be on your team, except for the part of 9 people in 2 vans.
It's three
Uh,
vans,
oh,
but I
three
don't
van.
blame you.
Okay.
That's no,
Okay.
doesn't help a
Uh,
bunch.
and also just to look at this kind of the size of the foundation, it's not just you nine. There's like a number of people on the team. You kind of rotate out, right, of who goes on the road trips.
Yeah, there's about 30, maybe 40 of us during the field season. That's our busiest time of year. That's when we're sampling all of these farms. So there's always a team of nine, but there's more than just nine of us who work here.
Yeah,
And then we rotate out who is sampling and who is not, and whoever's not is back at the lab. That's also our farm. So we have people who are writing the research papers and analyzing data. We have people who are developing BugBox and taking photo samples of all of the insects. But we also have people who are building fence every day and rotating sheep and are a part of our beekeeping team. And we have 100 hives here where we raise honey. So there's always
That's
something to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the farm is Blue Dasher, right?
Yes,
And I think I loved learning that about y'all, that even though you're all about this scientific work and working with farmers, y'all thought it was really important to have your own farm to be, involved in. So that's pretty good. And wow, 100 hives, that's a job in and of itself right there.
yeah,
Um,
it is. Bobby's our main beekeeper and she's great, but I think it is really important to have this on farm experience for a lot of us. I mean, we're coming we're coming here with a wide range of expertise and experience. And I think it's really important when we're having conversations to farmers to be able to relate to them and to understand where they're coming from. And to just get dirty ourselves and have to deal with those sort of issues that they're facing, and also get to experience all the joys that come along with that. I mean, getting to be out there and working with animals, and I helped with lambing this year. It's all really exciting, and I really enjoy being a part of that work, and it makes me want to get even more involved. And half the time I'm talking to farmers, I have to ask them questions, but I'm also picking their brains too because they know a lot more than me. So
Yeah, you're the young lady from Rhode Island who probably never thought, that you would be in this field doing this, and that puts you in a different perspective than someone that grew up on a ranch or a farm, Um,
totally.
yeah, so I think we're seeing a shift, more and more people, not only like in your case, but also older citizens who are saying, I'm leaving my full-time career, but I have a whole bunch to give back. And this is one way to have a little farm and create the systems that you're recommending. It's exhilarating. Let's see here. Are there any farmers or stories on your travels that have really inspired you? Can you think of just an
Um,
example or two?
there's so many.
Yeah, okay, that might be
um,
putting you on the spot.
no, I have a few that I come to mind, but it really is, I think, more so overarching for me is that meeting so many farmers and getting to see so many different farms across the country was inspiring of itself. It was really powerful for me to experience that for the first time last summer.
Yeah,
Um, but I think, yeah, I have a few. there's there's a family, the Burroughs family. They're based out of California. They grow almonds along with a few other things, but they're pioneers in the almond industry for regenerative farming. And they have been connected to us since we started this 5 years ago. And they're a really wonderful family that have become friends of ours. And every year when we go to visit, they host us and they cook amazing meals for us. And we all get to catch up and play with their grandkids and meet their kids. And I was
yeah,
able
that's awesome.
to go there and visit their farm this past February, and it's a really special time. And I think it speaks measures to what we're doing, that, you know, this all started 5 years ago and they're still with us for the ride, and that they've become friends more than anything. And
Yeah,
we really
that's
care
it.
about them.
That's that sense of community. Like it happens organically, I think, because there's synergies. Because you could use them as an example, but there's probably 100 more that are, similar stories, that are
Yes.
just impacting. And boy, what you ought to do is have a conference and everyone could come and kind of meet each other. Who knows what the future will unfold for your mission.
Yeah, that would
I
be
think
great.
I think that's exciting. Um, well, if we look at what's at stake if we don't approach soil health, biodiversity, and the inputs? Like if we continue on the path that we're on in so many ways of farming, where are we going to head to?
Well, I think, like you said, that's the path that we're on. We're not really addressing soil health or biodiversity, and look where we are.
Yeah,
There's a health crisis, there's a climate crisis. Um, there, we're already kind of there, and I think it's only going to get worse. Um, you know, I think what I was saying earlier, when you visit certain farms and you feel like the mountain is insurmountable, it's because you're going and you go to these farms where the soil is completely dead,
yeah,
where they're spraying with pesticides and insecticides, and then we have to go and dig in their dirt and put our hands in that. And when you're up close and personal, working in an area that you're being exposed to these sort of toxins, it's very confronting. But
yeah,
then it's even more confronting to think about the people who are working in those fields every day that have to wear masks and hazmat suits to go work in a field. That doesn't
right.
seem right. Those are
And
things that
then,
we're putting in our bodies.
yep,
And
exactly. We turn a blind eye, just like livestock, and how they're processed and so forth, and what we eat. And sometimes there's that term chemicalizations, where things have to get really bad and kind of bubble up before people start to take action. And I think that's why both of us are on a mission to tell these stories, just to awaken people and what you can do and what you can support. Where can you put your money behind organizations that are trying to make a difference?
mhm,
So
yeah.
yeah, I agree. Um, if there's a landowner or a grower or a farmer that's listening to this and they're curious about regenerative practices, I don't think you're saying call you guys, but where would you suggest they might start?
Um, yeah, I mean, we're happy to talk to anybody, but like we said, we don't do consulting. We're not trying to tell anybody what to do.
Yeah,
But if you're interested in trying to implement regenerative practices, I think the best way to start is just taking a small plot of your land, one field or section or whatever that you find to be manageable, and that you might want to implement one regenerative practice or two regenerative practices for the season, and just see how it does. If you
yeah,
don't don't spray in that specific field, or you use a cover crop for the first time, and see what happens, and see if there's benefits to that, and if you like the way that it's looking, then expand. But I think that's a good way to get your feet wet, because you're not betting your whole farm on this big change, and changes are scary. And I think if we just take it one step at a time, it gets a little less intimidating, and it gets a little more possible, and it allows people to stay persistent.
yeah. And there's also the idea of planting chestnut trees or other trees. So do you talk much about agroforestry, changing systems up a little bit around that, or you're probably a fan of it? I guess like you said, you don't do consulting, but I think that's one area where we will see growth in the coming decades.
Yeah, totally. I think, well, so we have two expansion efforts that we're really working on this year. And one of them is called Project Ignite. And Ignite is the continuation of 1,000 farms. So we've sampled over 1,200 farms at this point, but we want to continue and gather data on more of a focused range of growing systems. So specifically, growing systems that we feel will be guiding the future of food production. And one of those growing systems is silvopasture or agroforestry. So along with perennial cropping.
Yeah,
So chestnuts is really a perfect example of something like that, where you're growing a perennial crop, you have low inputs and no till, and you also have the opportunity to be grazing underneath your trees. Intercropping and diversifying growing systems is really exciting to us and something that we want to be measuring. And I think a lot of orchard systems show a lot of potential there, and
Yes.
chestnuts specifically for their yields and potential as a food and alternative ingredient to corn, um, speaks a lot to what the future could be.
Yeah, I agree. Are there any other programs that y'all are initiating or underway?
The second expansion effort that we're working on is called Project Avalanche, and that is more of a um, community focused project. So we would like to empower farmers to take science into their own hands and to have them sample their own farms. And that's something that we're just starting this summer, but I'm excited about it. I think it really gets to the heart of, trying to foster community and rebuild rural communities and have farmers feel like they can make change and they can do this thing on their own. And
Yeah,
being able to provide insight for them and a lot of other farmers. I mean, we would love to visit every farm, but we can't do that.
yeah.
So letting farmers be able to take that initiative themselves and um, grow the pool of data that we have would be awesome.
Yes, I agree. And I know that you have plans to revisit some of the farms that you visit to see if they've implemented changes or their management practices, or is the soil better, right? Is that kind of part of the
Yeah.
plan?
Yeah. So like I said, we sample a variety of management practices, but we are particularly interested in those who might have just started implementing regenerative practices. We would like to return to those farms and sample them repeatedly the first, second, third, fifth, and 10th year.
Yeah,
And in doing so, we're measuring how those practices have changed over time and led to the progress of their farm. And I think that's really what's exciting when we can measure the progress at one specific location. I think that speaks a lot to the potential that those practices have.
yeah. Especially when you compile it all and say, hey, look at this whole group of people that are doing things in a different way, and look at the outcomes are phenomenal. Um,
Hmm.
where can people follow your work? How do they contribute or watch or just whatever?
Um, we have a lot of social media. We have an Instagram and Facebook page. They're both just at Ecdysis, which is Ecdysis. I actually should say because no one knows how to pronounce it, and no
Yes,
one knows what it
please.
means.
Yeah,
um,
tell the definition. I looked it up, but
yeah, Ecdysis is the process of an insect shedding old skin. So the founder, being an entomologist, chose that as a kind of metaphor for what we're trying to do and shedding old models of agriculture in the pursuit of a regenerative future.
yeah.
So that is what the name comes from, and hopefully people will remember how to say it and to spell it so they can
Yes,
find us.
I love it. I love it.
Um,
What a great analogy,
yeah.
absolutely right. I guess,
Um,
yeah, sorry.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I really like the meaning behind it as well. And I think if people remember that, if they remember the meeting, they'll remember the name, hopefully. But if you want to look at Instagram or Facebook, we also have a website, ecdysis.bio, or if you Google Ecdysis Foundation, you can find us there and learn more about what we're doing. And we also have a YouTube page and a LinkedIn.
Yeah,
So.
that's fantastic. Just before we wrap up here, any last thoughts, wishes, maybe what you hope the most you'll see in farming in the future, or anything like that?
Um, I think I think that I kind of said this already before, but um, I think that just having the chance to meet all of these farmers is really what continues to inspire me. And getting to get excited with them about what they're doing is my favorite part of the job. And getting to come together and have meals with them and get to know them and build these relationships. I mean, that's what it's all about. And I think that I'm having those experiences make me hopeful that one day our food system is going to be feeding local communities, and we'll be living in communities where people will want to know their farmers and want to come together over food and want to grow their own food. Um, like I said before, I really think it's what brings people together, and understanding that we're all a part of nature and ecosystems and each other. Food has a great way of bringing all of those things together, and I hope that that's what we're moving towards.
That is absolutely beautiful. And I guess I can just say from the farmer's perspective, we were just so blown away with the all the different expertises on the team and how all you integrated and inspired us to try to be better farmers and continue to learn and work hard, so it is a community and it is mutually beneficial. And I hope that the listeners of this will go take a look at what you're doing and try to move in that direction to help all of us in the long run.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
for saying that, and also thank you for all the work that you're doing. I think you're a great example of people who are just getting into farming that shows it's possible and it's fun and exciting and there's a lot of potential there. And I also think it's so great that you guys are doing this podcast and you're having a lot of outreach and education opportunities for other people, bringing about that awareness and building community as well. That's so important. So I really appreciate being a part of it and having the opportunity to be on Branching Out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People often ask Brad and Melanie Jones what a UMCA PQK seedling is. The University of Missouri Center for Agroforestry seedlings descend from an orchard with 3 well-characterized grafted cultivars. Peach, Ching, and Cork, the orchard environment generated a seedling population of 3 full sibling families. As an approved growing partner for the university, Brad and Melanie are thrilled to offer the UMCA PQK seedlings from their Kentucky-based nursery, United Chestnut. Visit unitedchestnuts.com for more information about this seedling and others available. Consider subscribing to the weekly blog and tuning into the chestnut industry podcast, Branching Out. That was unitedchestnuts.com.